Hi everyone, Zari here. So today I'm going to give you my 10 tips for leveling in Season 1. So as Season 1 is about to get started here, I know a lot of you guys are probably looking on the fastest way to level or the most fun way to level or guides to level and things like that. And I'm going to give you some of that, but probably not all of this. So let's get to it. So tip number 1. So leveling is for experimenting and learning about the class. So this is really key, guys, that if you really want to learn about a class, especially if you're new to the class, is you need to experiment. So feel free to look for things like synergies when you're experimenting. So for example, there's a new heart that stuns, and maybe your class has a skill that needs the mob to be stunned to work. So as you learn about the class and you see different synergies, you can then start building the character to become more and more powerful. And respecing is really cheap early on in the game, and you haven't invested much into aspects and armor at this point, so this is really a key time to be experimenting, and it's a lot of fun to do so. And when you get things like new legendaries, again, look for those synergies, those combos to see just how powerful they are. And there is no wrong way to level. Don't feel like you need to just look up a guide from some content creator to tell you exactly what points that you need to put in at what level and things like that. And you can try them out for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever, and then if it's not working, try something else. And that's what I do. And you'll find that this is not only more satisfying, but actually it'll probably work out better because guess what, guys? Content creators don't have it all figured out either. So we're just experimenting all the time and trying to figure out new things that work better. So experiment. Tip number 1. Tip number 2, focus on renown. So in this season, while we do get some of the renown to begin with, we don't get all of it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to kill two birds with one stone. So doing things like strongholds, dungeons, and side quests while leveling. And while this may not be necessarily the fastest way to level, I think that this is going to be a pretty efficient way to level because otherwise you're going to do these, you're going to end up farming, say, one dungeon over and over and over. You're going to get really bored, and then you're going to have to go back and do all this stuff anyways later on. So might as well do it at the same time. Tip number 3, try and get key aspects that activate your build by farming events and gambling obols. So for example, if you want to level with rapid fire, you really need to try and get repeating as soon as possible. So to make this more efficient, there's a couple resources here. So first off, there's the Map Genie website here that you can use to locate events. So for example, if I pull up the website here, it's going to give you this. What we just do is hit hide all and then click on event, and it will show me where all of the events are so that I can go try to farm them as I progress through the game. And then after you get your obols and you're ready to gamble, you can use the gambling guide to help you decide the best slot to gamble to have the highest chance. So if I pull up this site here, then we can click on any aspect. So for example, if I want biting cold, it will tell me the most optimal item to gamble is offhands on sorcerer, for example, in order to get this. So it tells you and it also gives you the percentages down here as well in order to figure out what the odds are of dropping, and it also weights them for the cost as well. So pretty useful website there. Tip number 4, you want to maximize your experience gains. So to do this, I would focus mostly on damage and mobility stats and skills to level faster in the early game. So things like movement speed, or if you have skills that allow you to move through the maps faster. And then of course damages for killing faster. And then when you're doing nightmare dungeons, you want to fight the mobs at your own level. I wouldn't try and push higher up, and then add defenses as needed. And this is because of the experience gained from fighting higher level mobs is now only 1.5% per mob level, and it caps out at 15% when 10 levels higher. So it's really just not worth the added difficulty or time to kill if you're trying to be efficient with your experience gains. That being said, if you find it more fun to try and push up higher, go for it. It's all about fun anyways, right guys? Tip number 5, always use a potion for 5% more experience. I'm really bad at this. I forget this all the time. So what you might want to do is set a timer on your phone or your computer to remind you as it expires. Tip number 6, while damage is great, sustain is really great. So what you want to try and do is find one big source of healing in order for you to not die. And this could be something like barrier generation or healing. And there's some aspects that are generally key for this and can be helpful. So for example, Rogue has aspect of Crowded Sage, Cruel Sustenance, and Stolen Vigor. Druids, you got some healing through Skinwalker and Direwolf's aspect. Necro, Shielding Storm, Source, Encased aspect. And then there's a couple new hearts here that could help us with sustain as well. So this would be the Lion Heart, gives us 10% barrier generation, and it heals us while we have it active. And then Barbs have Resurgent Life. So when you're below 46% life, you receive 50 to 60% more healing. So one big source of sustain is really nice so that you're not having to chug potions all the time. Tip number 7, look for weapons near breakpoints to upgrade to the next tier of item stats, especially the 625 and 725 breakpoint for big stat gains. So here are the breakpoints in the game. So you got one at 150, 340, 460, 625, and 725. Basically, the idea is that if you upgrade an item past one of these breakpoints, then the stats on it jump to the next tier, and it's a really big item upgrade. Tip number 8, try to pick up some key powerful aspects for the codex as soon as possible. So for example, the Protector Legendary from Lost Archives, you can pick that up around 10 to 15, and this just helps you versus elites. And then if you're, say, doing like pen shot, for example, you could look up the trick shot aspect from the Bastion of Faith, and you could go over there and get it at around like level 30 or 35. And you can use this website to quickly find out which and where the aspects are that you can pick up in the codex. So if we pull this up here, this website is quite nice because it shows you all the things that are in the codex, and you can search the aspect by name if you'd like, if you already know which one you're looking for, or if you're just trying to figure out what are the different ones that are possible. First off, notice these ones by class are all, so any class can get these. And if you want specific ones to your class, you can type it in. So if I type in Rogue, then it'll just show me just the Rogue ones, as well as the category, and then where I can get it. And what's really nice is I can just click the location button here, like so, and then it will pop up and show me exactly where it is on the map. Tip number 9, I would recommend upgrading your weapon at least 2 to 3 times. So the material cost is very cheap for the first few upgrades. So don't feel like you can't upgrade stuff. You'll have plenty of materials, so don't worry about that. And then replace your weapon often as you get higher weapon power in order to make your life a little bit easier. And tip number 10, this is probably the most important one, guys, is have fun. Play something that works for you. Okay, so do not follow the meta. So I know that there is this feeling of like, I gotta play the meta build, the meta is the best thing, but guess what, guys, the meta often gets nerfed, and it often requires very specific items and playstyle in order to work correctly. People try the meta out, they don't like it oftentimes, it doesn't fit them, or they don't have the items to make it work, so then it just feels bad. So until you have those items, or until you find that playstyle that works for you, it's oftentimes better just doing something non-meta that doesn't require all those meta items. And as I said before, the creators haven't figured everything out. There are oftentimes other builds out there that people haven't figured out that you could be the one to figure out. Okay? So remember, leveling, it is for experimenting, and this is where you will learn a lot about the class, and maybe you can come up with the next big build. Okay? So hope you guys have an awesome season 1. And if you guys want to see other guides, check out my channel. There's some really great defensive guides on there. And I'll put a video on the page that'll pop up here that I recommend you guys check out. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.